Morning, Reverend Tony here with my friend Pancake out for a morning walk, thinking about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the version of Dr. King that our holiday celebrations tend to leave out. Take a walk with us. We'll think a little more about it. Dr. King protested the Vietnam War. He called America the biggest purveyor of violence in the world. It was in 1967 when he said that, and it still is. I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. If Black Lives Matter is something that makes you anxious, you don't think is quite okay, well, you would not have liked Dr. King much at all. I contend that the cry of Black Power is, at bottom, a reaction to the reluctance of white power to make the kind of changes necessary to make justice a reality for the Negro. Where I live, not so long ago, there was a large protest in Hartford, here in Connecticut, and supporters of racial justice blocked one of our major interstate highways. And if you think that's going a little too far, listen to what Dr. King has to say about disrupting cities. We've got to find a method that will disrupt our cities if necessary, create the crisis that will force the nation to look at the situation, dramatize it, and yet at the same time, not destroy life or property. And I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice and humanity. When he was assassinated, Dr. King was in the middle of organizing what he called the Poor People's Campaign, to have an army of poor people from across the nation descend on Washington, D.C. and demand economic justice. If you think Bernie Sanders is radical and Occupy is radical, you would have thought Martin Luther King was a little radical too. Again, we have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifice. The fact is that capitalism was built on the exploitation and suffering of black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, both here and abroad. Recently, a Republican lawmaker said Dr. King, if he were alive today, would be against the teaching of critical race theory. That is so ridiculous as to be laugh out loud funny if it wasn't so incredibly, horribly arrogant and ignorant. Here's what Dr. King has to say about how little white people understand institutionalized racism and our history in this country. Why is equality so assiduously avoided? Why does white America delude itself? And how does it rationalize the evil it retains? The majority of white Americans consider themselves sincerely committed to justice for the Negro. They believe that American society is essentially hospitable to fair play and to steady growth toward a middle-class utopia embodying racial harmony. But unfortunately, this is a fantasy of self-deception. Whites, it must be frankly said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn. The reality of substantial investment to assist Negroes into the 20th century, adjusting to Negro neighbors, and genuine school integration is still a nightmare for all too many white Americans. These are the deepest causes for contemporary abrasions between the races. Loose and easy language about equality, resonant resolutions about brotherhood fall pleasantly on the ear, but for the Negro there is a credibility gap we cannot overlook. He remembers that with each modest advance, the white population promptly raises the argument that the Negro has come far enough. Each step forward accents an ever-present tendency to backlash. Pancake and I appreciate you taking a walk with us on this Martin Luther King Holiday Monday. If you could do us a big favor and hit that thumbs up button, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with others, and leave us a comment about your thoughts on Dr. King and his holiday. Until next time, we love you.